So recently, I got a chance to do a live stream of Pantheon Rise of the Fallen, and I must say, it was about as EQ as you can get. And no, that's not some hip slang, at least I think. I'm not sure what you kids are jiving with nowadays. No, Pantheon Rise of the Fallen is an upcoming indie MMO that aims to take you back to the days of Everquest 1. From the gameplay, the systems, everything down to the sound effects. Oh god, that noise still makes me wanna
family show!
Buzzkill. Anyway, the game is still in pre-alpha, however the devs were nice enough to let me join them on a dungeon run through Black Rose Keep. It was... well, frankly, it was a lot of fun, even though we died a few times. But it wasn't my fault. I mean, sure, I was the healer, but...
Lesson number 1. It's your fault.
Oh, screw you, me! If you'd like to see the full stream, click on the link in the description below, and I'll also link it at the end of the video. Moving on, I'm not going to spend this video talking about all the features of Pantheon as I haven't gotten to experience them. I'll save that more full-featured video for when I get a more full-featured playthrough. Cough, hint, hint, devs, cough. Right now, I'm going to concentrate on what I played and how it felt. Starting off, it's Everquest 1. Pretty simple, really. If you played EQ1 back in the day, so much of this is going to look familiar, though about 1 billion times better visually. In fact, I dare say Pantheon looks really good, especially that Brad McQuaid. Hey, Brad. Hey, don't run from my love. Of course, it's not perfect. My character has a bit of a derp face, but it's pre-alpha and that could change, and since I'm going to be seeing him mostly from behind anyway, I'm okay with it. Just so long as the armor looks good or I have a muscly orc back. That dude works out. Before we began, I sat around exploring my spellbook and picking out spells to use for the upcoming battles. Since I was playing a cleric, my bar was mostly full of heal spells and a few attacks. And just for the people who care, which oddly seems to be a lot of you crazy people, I'll go through my action bar. First, I had some slower casting, weak and strong heals, and then some faster casting but less mana efficient, weak and strong heals for our moments, of which there were a few. I must say, throughout the stream, I had a few clutch heals. Yep, I'm pretty proud of myself. Next up was a shielding spell that absorbed some damage, and the next 3 were just some DPS skills, nothing major. In spot 9, I had a self buff, which decreased the casting time on my heal spells. In spot 10 was a resurrect, which could be casted in combat. And then I had some buffs. God, I miss buffing up in MMOs. Sure, it takes time, but then again, I don't care. Bring back buffs, MMOs. Spirit of Wolf and Clarity were godsent. As a cleric, I had 2 different buffs. One that increased your armor class, and another that increased both your armor class and your max health. So first things first, you buff up before you start fighting. Or, shortly after you start fighting because you forgot buffing was a thing. Then you move in. Pantheon is very much a group-centric game. While I'm told solo play will still be possible, you're gonna want to group up with your fellow adventurers for a better experience. With that in mind, each class in the game has their role to play. Our group consisted of 2 warriors, a rogue, an enchanter, a shaman, and myself the cleric. The warriors acted as main tank and off tank, the rogue and enchanter were there for DPS and crowd control, the shaman was for off heals and DPS, and I was main heals but with some DPS thrown in there because I felt like it. BAM! Healer deeps for the win! I think I hit for like 2. Combat in general felt a bit more strategic than other MMOs I've played lately. The mobs we were fighting were lower level than us, which you can tell by using the consideration system. Remember that? Dubiously. Without EQ1's consideration system, I would have failed high school English. But even these weak enemies took us quite a bit of time to get down. And once you get into the higher level enemies, things become considerably harder. Or should I say, dubiously harder.
I do not think that word means what you think it means.
Shut up, Inigo. While making our way into the dungeon, we had to be careful of our pulls because trains are a thing. Hit the wrong enemy and we could have ended up with the whole room on us. And while a few extra enemies may not seem like a big deal, what with these newfangled MMOs having you kill dozens of enemies at the same time, in Pantheon, it means death. If you're not careful, wipes will happen often and quickly, as in seconds. 1 second you're fine and everyone's happy and having a great time, and the next you're dead. And then it's time for the corpse run. Although this was a time-limited stream, so we got to use dev powers and just teleport back. But yeah, corpse runs will be a thing, so prepare to keep an extra set of armor in your bank. Corpse runs. Good times. Frustrating, rage-inducing times, but good times nonetheless. Most of our time was spent pulling smaller groups of enemies to clear out a room so we could fight a mini-boss. This felt very much like an old-school affair. It was more about being on top of things and strategic in your skill use and mana consumption. The mini-boss herself was a somewhat difficult fight, with strong AoE spells coming down that made me do a lot of healing. And I also had to spend some time regaining mana during the battle. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. Like some other older MMOs, you'll need to sit to regain mana faster. Though if you're in combat, you'll actually stand and pray, allowing you to regain mana, just not as fast as sitting. Anyway, we did manage to down the mini-boss, and that was our goal for the stream. I don't believe it had been done before on stream, and I was the first one to do it. Hive represent? Ow! Overall, this was super nostalgic. I felt like I was back in 1999, grouping with friends just sitting around chatting while we camped an area. And that's what makes me most excited for Pantheon, the ability to just sit and chat with people. You're not questing at a breakneck speed or racing to the finish of a dungeon where everyone just plays in silence. Instead, you're gonna need to sit and communicate, and as a side effect, you'll get to know your fellow players. Frankly, it may not be for everyone, but for an old guy like me, it's a nice throwback to a simpler time. A time when I was young and just in love with MMOs. I was also a lot thinner. And better looking. Excuse me, I got something in my eye. And those were my thoughts on my dungeon run in Pantheon. If you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I put out a new video every week. I've also put another video for you to watch right up here. If you want, you can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, or Twitch for my weekly live streams. And if you really want to help the channel, you can donate to me on Patreon like these other amazing people. I'd camp a spawn with them.